his ticket. Tonight, this topical issue that has dominated the atmosphere is now to set an agenda for game players in the political space by those who should know. But first, let's get to see this report by political correspondent Timothy Yusuf.
Nigeria, a nation in search of a new leader, and such moment comes with unrelenting advocacy to sensitize the voters on the choices they make at the ballot. But the first step is to get it right at the political party level, especially now that primaries for emergence of candidates among numerous aspirants vying for various elective offices have commenced by some political parties. With the 2023 general election getting closer, aspirants are on the media headlines and busy at the podiums and the palaces of the traditional rulers, seeking anointing, while non-governmental organizations also meeting at convenient corners preaching the expected ideals for the elections to the electorate on the Nigerian agenda on the kind of leader Nigeria needs in 2023.
The message and mandate here is for the delegates to be nationalistic and very intentional as to who gets their endorsement. No business as usual. The delegates will also know that they are not only delegates of their respective parties, but also representing Nigerian people all over the globe.
The race to the Aso Rock, for instance, is quite long, tough, rough, and quite competitive. For now, it's a race of multitude, but after the party primaries, it will become a race of 18, and in the long run, only one will wear the crown. But all of the processes lie in the choices by the delegates at the various political parties. For some political watchers, promotion of rural community sensitization and mobilization mission to educate the electorate on their numerical strength and how to utilize this political weapon that is useful mostly in every 4 years are the way to go. It's indeed the ideal way to go, but will the electorate and the delegates summon the courage to resist the financial temptation by the politicians with deep pockets to fool their conscience and not the conscience of the big politicians? Time will tell. Timothy Yusuf.
That report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's start off by introducing our guests to you. We'd like to welcome to this program Prince Adewale Adebayo. He's a lawyer and SDP presidential aspirant. Thanks for being with us tonight.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
Let me also welcome to this program Obidike Okolo. He's also a lawyer. He's Deputy National Secretary, National Rescue Movement, and National Treasurer of the Inter-Party Advisory Council. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right. Now, joining us from our Kano studio is Honorable Mansur Umar Kurugu. He is a political strategist. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Pleasure being with you all.
We also have joining us from our Sokoto network studio, Sambo Bello Danchadi. He is APC Publicity Secretary of Sokoto State. Thanks for being with us on NTA Tuesday Live.
Good evening, Nigeria. From Sokoto, the seat of the Caliphate. Good evening, Nigeria.
Much. Thank you. And so, well, tonight we're set to go on this discussion. Well, at some point in time, as is usual with NTA Tuesday Live, we will open the phone lines, and that means you can get to be part of the discussion in the studio, call in, and air your views. But that will come much later in the program. And right now, I also believe that we have been joined by another of our guests, Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu. He is a political scientist and researcher. He joins us via Zoom. Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu, good to have you join the discussion tonight.
The pleasure is all mine. Good evening, Nigerians.
All right. Thank you very much. So let's start off this discussion. And from the very simple point of view, finding out who a delegate is under the current dispensation and what qualifies one to be a delegate? Simple, straightforward. We'll start with you, Prince Adewale Adibayo.
Well, a delegate is a representative of the membership of the party. You know, democracy says it's government of the people, by the people. And we have two ways to look at it. One is called direct democracy, in which every member of society, and in the case of a political party, every member of a political party has a right to join decision making. And when you are choosing someone to represent the party, it means that under our law, you either have every member having a vote. Now, in some political parties, you could have millions of members, and the process could be cumbersome, could take a long time, could be too expensive. So what you do is to do a two-stage process where the members in their localities will elect a representative who is called a delegate. A delegate in law is someone who is given an assignment. So it's now to go there and on behalf of those who elected him, cast a vote as to who is going to become the candidate of the party or an officer of the party, if that's what the election is for. So essentially, a delegate is a messenger sent by his people to take a decision on their behalf.
All right. So straightforward. No, but let's find out from the Deputy National Secretary of the National Rescue Movement, and so what qualifies. He's just given us a broad look at who a delegate is, a member of a party. But what are the parameters determine who a delegate can be, even as just a member of the party?
Well, essentially, the constitution of the parties, that is what exactly determines who becomes a delegate. Of course, as the Electoral Act has determined. Now, a delegate, for me, the leadership recruitment process, the delegation that goes to determine who represents the party, ordinarily I see it as a rigged system. Okay, why? Because the delegates are those who ordinarily restrict the delegates are those who restrict, who bring together
Okay. Well, okay. So you're saying you see what is going on in this current dispensation as something that can be improved upon.
Can be improved upon, yes.
Okay.
The delegate recruitment system, which is what I call it, is a rigged system.
All right. Okay. Okay. We'll come to that in greater detail. But let's go over to Kano Studio, where we have Honorable Mansour Umar Kurugu, and yes, since the gates opened to start jostling for who gets what and who eventually clinches the party's ticket, you find politicians who are interested in running for political office. They've been crisscrossing either their local communities, the entire state, or the entire country, as the case may be, depending on what they're aspiring to. So, what strategies are being employed to gather these delegates and convince them? Since it would seem that all those who have the ambition to run still have to go to the same people. So what do you use? What strategies do you employ in getting them to buy into your ideas and eventually selecting you as the flag bearer?
First of all, I would like to talk a bit about the importance and advantages of having all these delegates for the indirect primaries. If you look at it, it seems like it's really a very good way of bringing a politics down to the grassroots. Like even for you to be able to vote for a particular candidate to go out for the general election, you need to undergo an electoral process. You know, it's really a good addition if you look at it, the initial concept. But of course, this is Nigeria. We always have these kind of beautiful policies, you know, strategies and the rest of that. But when it comes to the implementation, that is where we ended up missing the hallmark. So ordinarily, you know, the politicians that wish to contest for an office should have been able to reach out to the delegates at certain levels, you know, galvanize their support, you know, look through all those people that have undergone the processes. But what we are seeing today is, of course, politicians going to the regular process of meeting the governors and the party leaders at the state level, thinking that whatsoever decision the governor is going to take of a particular state or the party leader is going to take will simply stand and will be abided by all the delegates, which means the delegates were made, they were democratically elected, I suppose, even though in some places, you know, there is not that much of a process because look at it, the delegates are supposed to be elected, which means you should be entitled to buy a form and contest. But now the entire forms are being sold or are being with the leadership of the party through the state governors, which means if at my own level, whether I'm not with the governor or I have contrary opinion to what the governor might have, I don't stand a chance to walk in through the door of my party secretariat at the state level or at the national headquarters to buy the form and contest within my community, which means doing the indirect primaries through the delegate is simply doing the normal processes of allowing the governors and those that the power relies with them to decide who is going to take the lead in their states. And of course, I know there is going to be a consequences. For instance, now consider Kano State as an example. There are other people that we believe they have a capacity within the APC, but because they are not really in the line of the state governor, they don't really stand a chance to, you know, have those delegates and allow some of those delegates that can use their heads, you know, correctly to vote the right candidate, because they always have to go for their masters. So I think generally the idea of delegate is good, but the way it is being utilized, I mean, is what we really need to improve moving forward, because this is just the first time that we have it in our constitution that every party must conduct election for a delegate.
All right, thank you so much. And you've raised a number of points, and these are some of the things we'll be exploring as we go on with tonight's program. But let's see if we can go over to Sokoto studio and link up with Sambo Bello Danchaji, who is the APC Publicity Secretary, and say, well, we have an interesting perspective on what delegates should ideally be, but what is the practice? Now, what are your views about that?
The delegates certainly knows that he is carrying the weight of the people he is representing, and therefore his vote translates into a vote for the entire people whom he is representing. In Sokoto State, maybe I should talk about how we have done our own arrangement here. We started the exercise by holding a stakeholders meeting of all the stakeholders of the party at various levels, from the state executives of the party to members of the national and state assemblies, to members of the business community, to local government party chieftains, party executives at the local government's level, and all the other interest groups that are the stakeholders in the party. We held a meeting, and the rules are read out, and the forms were sold openly
at the secretariat of the party, there is no individual who asked for the form and was denied. The exercise was entirely free and fair. And I bet all those who bought the form or even attempted to buy can attest to this fact that sales of forms in Sokoto State was openly done and was free and fair.
All right. Okay, at this point, let's go over to the political scientists and who might dissect all of this for us, if you will. And that's talking about Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu. You've listened to our guests, and I'd like you to take us through this. Now, in the first instance, if I might refer to Honorable Mansour Umar Kurugu's views that yes, it's a good thing, but it could be skewed because, of course, the governors and all such who are leaders wield so much influence. And that's why we're seeing what we're seeing right now. People going around and not speaking directly to the delegates, but first of all, going to those who, in the long run, it's believed they might just have the influence. Now, can you just give us, an insight into how this should work, the advantages and disadvantages of a system like this?
Well, thank you very much. I think let us start from what is meant by representative democracy. Representative democracy is a corrupt version of the democracy that was practiced in the ancient city of Athens, where adult male who are free citizens, freeborn, who are not slaves, usually go to the market square or to the square to discuss common issues. With the growth of population, people began to delegate responsibilities by appointing leaders to represent the common interests of everybody. So when you're talking about delegate system derives from the delegation that arises from the need to delegate responsibilities to people of proven character, integrity that would work for the interests of everybody within the polity. So delegate system, election of delegate is about selecting those that will in turn choose those that will represent the common interests of almost everybody within the system. Having said, there is a great difference between what the law says and what we do as human beings, especially in this time that we don't have industries, we don't have any lucrative venture except politics. And the easiest route to riches in this climb is politics. So the stakes are very high. That is why the competitions are fierce. And everybody want to control almost everybody to the extent that they do their biddings. So when we cite common goods as the rationale behind our action, invariably by the time we carry out this action, we come to see the influence of personal interest. And so I would say that our polity is constituted in such a way that personal interests continue to clash with public interest to the extent that private interest has always outdue public interest. And that is why the calculation is about winning. The calculation is about who gets what, who can I trust, who can I push there that will protect my interest, even if the entire state or the entire senatorial zone are against such choices. And this is why governors are powerful. The other angle to all of this is that most of the party members don't pay party dues. So most of the party officials and the party members are reliant on those we like to call money bags within the polity to finance activities of the party. So they control everything. Even the delegates that we're talking about, go and check. Most of them cannot even pay their flight ticket to the convention venue, even to go by road. Even if they have the money, they see it not as sacrifice. A lot of them want to get something from this process. And the facts are out there. There are some of the participants in the just concluded primaries that we got the news they are asking for refund of their money, that they paid some delegate to vote them, and then the vote cast did not go their way. So they are asking for refund. Now, you come to realize that most of these money bags are the people my friend Mansur is referring to. They control the most of the party executive because they finance the emergence, they finance the emergence of the delegates. So they are the merchants that this very particular candidate will go to. And that is why you find in every state, in every local government, in every ward, some powerful individuals that delegate will have to go, contestants, will have to go to them to ensure that they vote, they mobilize delegate to vote for them. So we've seen in the past where I think this very particular process to some large extent we have to commend the politicians over what is happening now. Previously, delegates are locked against some candidates that are not in the good books of the powers that be. And so you find out that candidates are given uniform so that they can't even sneak out, and then they are locked up in hotel waiting for the D-Day, and then they will tell them who they are going to vote for. But at least today, we see the sitting vice president going all over the country, canvassing for support. But again, the port of call, before they go to see the candidate, they have to see the governor, who in turn will mobilize the money bags within the polity, or those who call the shot within the political parties, to meet with every aspirant. Before, at the end of it all, by the time the interaction will be done, you can't even identify who the delegates are. Who you will be seeing there will be the governors and the top party apparatchiks and the rest of the people that control this very particular delegate. So it's one thing for everybody to go around to canvass, but those that will decide who will be voted may not even be there. The camera will not even capture them. This is our system. So we feel that if we're talking about democracy and we're talking about representation, the people should matter. The delegates should be allowed to make their choices. But where delegates are just delegates in name, they don't have the capacity to vote. They are controlled, and then they will be told who to be voted. Leave much to be desired, and that is why we're not really getting it. We're not getting it right in this country in terms of choosing those that will fly the ticket of most of the political parties.
Well, thank you so very much, and let's get back to the studio. But with a system like this in place, I must say, at this point in time, there are reports, and we hear reports that lots of money is changing hands, because that's what it's all about anyway. And by the time aspirants speak to those who have the influence, there are also other matters that come in here. Should this be so?
Okay, thank you. Let's do a deep analysis, because if you don't have an analytical framework, you either condemn a system you don't understand, or you become you have a comparative problem, or you are unfair to the country. Let's look at it this way. First, in the delegate system, we have an electoral act that makes a uniform rule. But under each party, there are different constitutions. In some parties, there are some people who, by nature of the office they hold, are delegates. If you are national chairman of a party, secretary, and all of that, if you are the state chairman, you are automatically a delegate. Even at that, INEC, in trying to improve on the system, says even that person who's national chairman or national secretary or whoever still has to go through an elective process, because the idea is to see that the voice of the people is heard. Now, political parties differ in their culture, in their attitude. So you cannot use a broad brush to say what obtains in one political party obtains in other political parties. So I belong to a political party. Some of these horror stories are strange to us. We don't have such.
Really?
So we don't have governors to start with. Mm-hmm. We have citizens who are members of the party, and you
influential, powerful citizens.
You go to them. But let me say something. Let's start from the beginning. The professor, this political scientist, talked about the democracy in its purest form, which is in Athens in the BCs. And even that one was not pure at all. Why? Because in Athens, women could not vote. And if you look at the population of Greece at that time, there were more women than men. So which means majority of the people in Greece could not vote. There were people who live in Greece who came from the suburbs, other places, who came from the colonies, they couldn't vote. There were highly experienced people who were not regarded as freeborn, they couldn't vote. So it shows to you that from the root of democracy itself, it wasn't perfect. Now, let's go back to where we learned it in modern time. The delegate system we are using came from the United States. In the United States, there are two systems, and we have to decide in this country which one we want to follow. In the United States system, the delegates are supposed to be robots. They don't have a mind of their own. So if you go to a state of North Carolina, and a particular candidate has the highest votes among the members of the party, the delegates, whether they like that person or not, don't have a choice. When they go, even if you as an individual voted against a particular candidate, but if you won the majority, even by one single vote, when you go to the convention ground, your vote is locked against your conscience. You must vote for that person you didn't like. That's the US system. You will see the argument between Mrs. Hillary Clinton and the opponents during their election season. You will see that Bernie Sanders supporters were criticizing the people called superdelegates, because the superdelegates were party leaders whom they regarded as weighing the influence and trying to control the vote. So what I'm bringing all of this out to show you is that every political system requires you to have a challenge of your culture. The prevailing culture in that society will modify the law. For example, when President Biden of the United States was voted in, and during the inauguration, President George Bush went to Representative Clyburn and shook his hand and said, "You saved America." Why? Because Biden was losing in the earlier states. But when he got to South Carolina, Clyburn, who was regarded by these people of the South as their leader, came out and spoke in favor of Biden and swayed the voters and the delegates in favor of Biden. It shows to you that in a political system, you need to be guided. So it's not every guidance. You can't take, if you follow it theoretically, it means an 18-year-old who doesn't know how many states there are in the country can just buy a home and become a delegate. So there's some form of interaction that's required. But what I would say in essence is that criminality, like buying votes, like paying for delegates, like all those things should be eliminated. But the process of leadership, guiding people, is quite important. Otherwise, you will vote against yourself if you are not politically educated. Right. But in the final analysis, when you're analyzing, take party by party so that you don't rubbish innocent parties who don't practice any of these malfeasance.
All right. It seems to me that when people talk about these things, what they're actually saying is they're not against, guidance, as you put it. What people are speaking up against is guidance through certain inducements that are not.
That's why I say those things. In any setting, even in the classroom where you're writing an examination, some will come to do malpractice. Anything like bribery in the electoral system is an offense.
Okay.
So that is not a fault of the delegate system, it's a fault of law enforcement, because this amount of money they are calling, which frighten me, this amount of money are feasible and can be seen. And for example, in some of the extreme cases where a disappointed briber says, "You need to return my money," and he's saying it openly, I think that calls for law enforcement to ask him, "How did you get the money? Why are you bribing people? And why are you not in jail right now?" Okay. So those are the things which we need to deal with. But the delegate laws that we have in this country, as written in the Electoral Act and some of the constitution of the parties I've seen, is far better than that of the United States, where I've lived for many years. And I've seen that your culture can defeat the law. So we need political education and we need ethical revolution, because ever we write the law, those who are looking for a crack in the law will always find something to do, or those who are by nature disobedient to the law, or those who have a very bad attitude of cutting corners, looking for shortcuts, they will always be there, but the law enforcement should deal with them. But you cannot keep amending the law. They will keep changing their mind and finding ways to beat the law. But not all political parties are involved in this, and I can speak for my party.
Well, which brings us to the question of having an inter-party advisory council and what role it plays in this. Certainly, as others have said, every party has its own makeup, its own constitution, but generally, the ultimate goal is seen to be deepening democracy and being involved in practices that are above board. Now, the level of Inter-Party Advisory Council, which of course you hold an executive position in, what do you discuss? How do you talk about these things? Do you consider how to clean up the system?
Okay, essentially, just like you rightly mentioned, the Inter-Party Advisory Council, which is an umbrella body, the main aim is to deepen democracy. Now, in the Inter-Party Advisory Council, we meet and discuss all the issues which border on elections, party, inter-party engagements, and all these matters. Now, for example, this election, we have been engaging with INEC from time to time, and some of the issues that have come out of the guidelines, the Electoral Act, we discuss these things with INEC. Now, the whole idea is to find a meeting point between the parties, inter-party, and on the one hand, and with INEC on the other hand, who is the general regulator. Now, I want to dovetail a bit to what this discussion as it concerns the delegates issue. The delegates process that we have is such that it is the delegates who actually threw up the eventual people who the flag bearers of the party. Now, for us, or for me personally, let me just put it that way, it is, like I was talking about, is a rigged system which disenfranchises, that is in context, those of the other electorates. Now, I, for one, would prefer the direct primaries, save for the logistic involved and the cumbersome nature of it. But you know what the direct primaries does is that it engenders inclusion, it engenders participation, and it gives more people the stakeholding. There is a sense of stakeholding in what is happening beyond the party, beyond the money bag issue, beyond the vote buying and the criminality that is attendant to the issue of delegates. But the direct primary, say for all the issues that I have just mentioned, has a way of giving more people inclusion in the process. And of course, some of the governors that we have been talking about who hijack the system, it to a very great extent reduces the incidences of vote buying. Not that it will not be there, but of course it reduces it to a very barest minimum.
Okay, fine, and we'll explore this further. But let's get up to Kano studio and Honorable Mansour Umar Kurugu. Follow your leader. That's a maxim, and yes. The delegates would be the ones who would throw up, who would be regarded as the flag bearer. I'd like to add a bit to it and find out what you think. Guided delegates. Now, when you're playing for high stakes, as it's been established, there's no doubt about that. where you have aspirants in their numbers speaking to the same delegates, how much influence are you thinking the leader can bring to bear on them?
Okay, so I think having a platform to talk to the people that could eventually vote for you, it's really a good one. But again, we are working more like with stakeholders, like Powerhouse and, the people that control the vote. So even when you come and talk to the people, it's a courtesy that the governor or the power within the state will definitely mobilize those delegates for respect and probably for democracy, to meet them and talk to them. But at the end of the day, there are bigger calculations, that will happen, especially if we're talking of the presidential ticket. There would be other factors, sharing formula and other arithmetics that will play a role at the end of the day to choose who is going to get the ticket. But of course, meeting the delegate could possibly change the mind of some of them. I always like to cite an example with Kano because, there is so much politics going on in Kano which involves lack of really, internal democracy. It's been a very long time that Kano has been faced with these kind of challenges, both in APC and in PDP, which are the major political parties. And of course, it's all result of all resolve, issues within the party. For instance, in PDP, when Concourse was in that party, there was this little challenge about a zonal position, which at the end of the day, that led him to move out of the party. And today, with the delegate and everything, I'm telling you, there are constituencies without even an aspirant for any position, and it is the same thing that is happening in the APC. And I know it is similar things that are happening in other states. In APC, you could imagine when a Supreme Court gave a judgment in the favor of the state governor, the leadership under the state governor. It's expected that more political aspirants will fall into that particular party. Unfortunately, what we saw is seeing the other way around, which simply means people are not really having a confidence in whatsoever ticket that the governor is going to present. And of course, that's what's happening. Like now, the APC in Kano, they have a very easiest way of solving their problems. They have only two candidates for the governor, Shaban Sharada and then the governor. And of course, everybody knows the kind of role which governor, I'm sorry to say, played some time ago during an election in 2019, which, make Kano people to see him not really as a competent candidate for that particular election. And that must be the reason.
Perhaps at this point, we might just ask you, what party, to state clearly what party you belong to and what the experience is in your party.
So initially, I am even from the development sector, and I felt in the development sector, there is little you can do to change people's life. You need to be within the cycle where the leadership is going to be made. And then we pull ourselves together, young development practitioners, and say, okay, what can we do? At the end of the day, we realize, okay, we can identify a candidate irrespective of their political parties and see what they can do, how to support them and bring them into the limelight and support them to take the leadership. So we are working with the APC as it stands, and we are looking at the way that this political party in Kano shouldn't fail. Because as it stands now, it's really in a kind of situation where if an action is not being taken, right candidate is not being, installed for the governorship, I know the result might not really be what the party would want at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you very much. I suppose it would be safe for us to say that your leaning is towards. But let's speak to the APC Publicity Secretary in Sokoto State, Sambo Bello and Chadi. And within your party, you'd hear that, one of the things we got in this program is that every party has its own constitution and has its own way. But even within your party, there are discordant voices on what should happen or what shouldn't happen. For instance, there are some party members or some APC members who believe that what Honorable Mansour was talking about is germane, and that people should just not trust the system, the delegate system, because in the long run, it's not going to throw up anyone, but it's just going to be who controls and tells the delegates what to do. In which case, it would seem that the aspirants across board, and I'm not talking about just presidential, in this case, governorship and even state assemblies, it would seem as if it's just a game that's been played while lines have been drawn and things have been determined. Would you agree with that?
Mr. Stover, I can agree. My own opinion is that it is a learning process. Things are getting better, and comparatively, the electoral process is improving. But as you can understand, in any developing economy, it is very difficult to have a true democracy. But in my opinion is the best way we can improve on the system is perhaps finding a way of funding the parties, how the parties can generate funds for themselves. And that is the best way that the process can be made better. Another thing is the integrity of the electoral process itself. Making sure that the delegates or the voters have secrecy of the vote. If the vote can be protected, the secrecy of the vote can be protected, I think that the integrity of the electoral process can be improved.
All right, thank you very much. Apart from the discussions in the studio, we also have some reports to also look into the issues we are raising tonight. So let's get to see this first report from our Lagos Center.
In political party primaries, it is believed that delegates represent the interests of the people, as they are a lesser number selected when compared to the entire voting population.
At various levels, the party will come up with the guidelines of electing delegates who will eventually vote for or against any of the candidates so that only one can emerge. Normally, you have two categories.
Politics, they say, is a game of numbers. This is evident during party primaries, as most aspirants leave nothing to chance to ensure that they get the highest number of delegates in order to clinch the party's ticket.
They are very key, and you need to handle them with care, utmost care. Because if you miss them or they don't vote for you, they're out.
Saying that delegates are fundamental in the scheme of things is stating the obvious. However, for some electorates, they are concerned about the criteria in deciding who becomes a delegate within a political party and what characteristics should these delegates look out for voting for aspirants during the party primaries, as they are expected to perform their duties without biases.
The future of your children will be at stake if you take the money and vote according to the money given to you. But if you vote according to your conscience, you will help the nation to elect genuine leaders.
The party that have been among the blacklists, should not be allowed to vote. They should be screened out automatically.
The amendment to Section 84, subsection 8 of the Electoral Act 2022 is a clear pointer that further highlights the relevance of delegates, as they can make or mar the chances of an aspirant under a political party platform. It is the expectation of many that efforts made would yield positive results and strengthen the over 2 decades of the nation's democracy. In Lagos, Amaka O.
All right, our next report comes from Kaduna. Let's get to see this one.
Delegates are a set of people recognized by 2022 Electoral Act as amended and critical components of democratic process. They are also products of election as due diligence is expected before their emergence.
We sold our forms. Those that have obtained the form, filled it and returned it, have gone into congresses in all the 255 wards of Kaduna State. And in those congresses, three delegates were elected. There were areas that people went into queuing to get their delegates. There were some areas, majority of the areas, people were into consensus. So, in Kaduna, we didn't have problem.
Their role is to serve as representatives of the larger segment of members of their political platform to select party standard bearers to contest general elections.
See, the issue is that it's not matter how large the delegates are, but how qualitative they are. Are there people who actually mind the situation we are facing today? Are there people who know the country? Are there people who can choose our leaders? If we do it squarely and there is equity in the selection of the delegates or election of the delegate, no matter how many they are, they can still satisfy the purpose of being there as delegates.
The way they formulated it, they make it very difficult for somebody to use his position to hijack the delegate.
However, the role of delegates in party primary election is received with mixed reactions as their limited number created an avenue for maneuver and scheming among aspirants, with some of them allegedly inducing them with money to buy their counsel.
Any party that allowed a candidate to buy votes from the delegates, already corruption has started. It cannot be counted as a good candidate.
This is what some aspirants are kicking against and consider it as counterproductive to entrenching genuine democracy.
Selection process was free and fair. So, but if you are talking about a fair representation of the party, I don't see it as being good enough, because just 3 numbers in a ward does not reflect any reasonable fraction of the delegate, the party.
Unfortunately, this time we had issue about constitutional amendment of the act, which now streamlined the number of people voting. The people voting now are people we didn't even expect.
As the political parties are providing level playing ground for aspirants, there is general belief that alleged vote buying among money bags aspirants will continue to tinker with electoral process. Dauda Mohammed.
All right, let's come back to the studio and take up from where some of those reports left off. Yes, you've told us parties differ, and not all parties are into this. But let's look at it within the parameters of the timetable that you have from INEC, for instance. Does that give you time to go to all the constituencies and meet with the delegates?
It does, because there will never be enough time, because you have to elect a president next year. And INEC needs a long time because people will still go to court. The court to determine. So first, it's assumed that you don't just become a presidential candidate, a governorship candidate, or whatever. You must have been active in the party. So you are a known quantity in the party. You've been active in the party. They know you, they know what you stand for, you interact with them. Now, there are 2 things we need to bear in mind. That the regulatory aspect of it, making the law and INEC implementing it, is to create a uniform rule across parties. However, the behavior, the philosophy of the party, why people come together, we have to remember that political parties are voluntary associations, and birds of the same feather tend to flock together. So those who you are witnessing their escapades, it is not only in these delegates' problem or issue that they're having problem. You have some political parties who have bad behaviors, and it is the reason why the country has witnessed a lot of underdevelopment, and it's the reason why people are clamoring for change. And in this season that people are clamoring for change, now we are seeing that even within their own party, the injustice which they are visiting on the rest of the country, they are also visiting on their membership. That's why you see a small party like us are becoming big because those who are refugees from injustice in those parties are flocking in by day and night, coming to say, well, you see, I've been treated unjustly. I tried to contest. I was edged out. I was paid out. So what we are learning is that between now and next year, there will be a big shift in the consciousness of the people. There will be no difference in the mind of the people anymore as to whether a political party is big or small. It will be whether the party is just and fair. That's number one, because the processes, we have been given the same exam sheet now by INEC. So people will look at each party. How did your presidential candidate emerge? Is it through fraud, through bribery, through all kinds of activities? They will know. Is it through a fair process that represents democracy? They will know. Now, what are the organizing principles by which your delegate is choosing the leader? Is it based on the money being paid? I have been to 31 states. And out of these 31 states, I have not seen one where the delegates have said to me, how much money are you giving to us? So I think they are more interested in, we are facing these two leviathans. Can you help us defeat them? That's the question they ask.
Perhaps
so each party will now have, I believe other parties will have different experiences. So
in the case of yours, no, would that be because you, as you described yourself, still a small party? In other words, when you grow big, wouldn't these issues grow with you as well?
I believe that it shouldn't be the case, because now we have learned from the mistakes of those who are big, and that you can be so big like a dinosaur and you are bigger than your environment and you go extinct. So as a result of that, you start practicing good practice at the beginning, because the dangerous aspect of political party misbehavior is that a political party potentially can become the government. And if you start with bribery, with unfairness, with breaking the rules, it means that the public trust is not safe with you. And that is the danger that we should look at this delegate system, or whatever system we look at. And that's why our political party, SDP, will try our best to learn from all these mistakes to see that we don't become yet another mistake in the eye of the Nigerian people.
Right, let's turn our attention to the political scientist, Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu. You've listened to this again, and again I put the question to you. First, this representative democracy, we keep saying, well, it's a learning process and it's not perfect, but shouldn't there be, certain parameters to say, look, nothing goes below this? Shouldn't there be at least some level that no matter what you practice, no matter how young you are in the system, there should be a minimum, shouldn't there be? Oh dear. Oh no, yes.
Thank you for the question. It is a question that is always at the back of my mind anytime we're discussing democracy and the progress thus far. Let me say this, and I want to be quoted, that anytime we say we are learning, that democracy is a learning process, it is when we refuse to do things right that we always say that it's a learning process. If we do things right, we won't say democracy is a learning process. But because we are not doing things right, we always say it is a learning process. It is unfortunate that after 23 years of democracy, we are still saying that we are learning. I want to be categorical here. When PDP started, the entire permutation was how to manage our diversity within the party, and then we could have a national party that can govern Nigeria for the interest of the people. But two things stood out, in which was the greatest undoing of the PDP. The first is the interest of the party over and above the interest of Nigerians and what the Nigerian people want. So the party finds itself in the quagmire because it promoted its own interest and survival at the expense of the interest and survival of Nigeria. The second problem the party faced was its inability to actually manage the crisis within the party. So Nigerians thought PDP was the problem. And when APC came on board, we all jumped into the ship of APC. And today, the same two factors has brought the APC to the same level as PDP. Two things PDP grapple with that I earlier mentioned are the two factors that are affecting the APC today. The first is the inability of the party to manage the interests of the members, to the extent that the interests of the members are subsumed under the interests of the country and the progress of the country. So everybody wants to become president, everybody wants to become senators, everybody wants to become the party leaders, and then you have a lot of wrangling and infighting within the party. Now, managing this crisis has become a serious problem. And this is where inducement comes in. This is where manipulation comes in. This is where abuse of processes comes in. This is where abuse of the constitution comes in. Because almost everybody is really pushed to the wall. We see these very particular positions as do or die. We're not fighting to establish industries. We're not fighting to invent anything. We're not fighting to do anything that will alleviate the suffering of the people. All we want is to acquire power. Simply because power grants us access to easy and cheap wealth. And that is why everybody is ready to do anything to ensure that they either get it or they move out of the party. And that is the point my brother from the SDP is making. He's saying that they are a small party and that they hope to grow big. I hope they are learning lessons from the big parties. But I want to say something, that in Nigeria, political parties always make impact based on the resources that is available to them. And that is why even the smaller parties, when the big money bags are decamping to their parties, you see the kind of smiles on their face and the way they welcome those people into the party, because it means more money to do more activities. And that is why I align myself to what my brother said, Dan Chadi. And that is the fundamental thing. He said parties must be able to fund its activities. And so if you cannot fund your activities, fund your parties. And that is why most of the small parties are dependent on donors for their activities. Even the Lesin, the interparty brother of mine was talking about just now, is always faced with. It's the problem of funding. Most of the activities are sponsored by most international NGOs that are to use their resources. They are not able to do that because there is no mechanism for raising funds. Party members are not even paying their dues. Most of the registers in these parties, honestly, if you subject the names to scrutiny, they will not pass the test of a true register. So the people that are there have even left those parties to another party. There are no mechanisms to equally remove their names to say, these people were my members and then they've left the party, so we've removed them from the register. That is not there. So we have a lot of problems that are big, but fundamentally, we have to do two things. The first is for us as a people to act as real people. There's no way I will be given the title of a delegate and I will go to vote and somebody will corner me and say, I must vote for Mr. A, and I will go and vote for Mr. A. As far as I'm concerned, that is not democracy. That is not how to act as real people that want development. And we used to commend those people that used to rebel against those very particular powers that be within the party, to say, you asked me to vote for candidate A, I'm not going to vote for candidate A because it's a secret ballot system. I go and vote for my conscience. But when you go there, you obey them simply because you want favor, because you want money, because they prop you up in the first place. You are not cheating anybody. You are cheating yourself. You are cheating your children. We don't have any other country apart from Nigeria. We need to act like real men, like real women, so that we can take responsibilities for our action. Not that we'll go collect money, vote, we buy cars, and there are no roads to drive on.
Okay. Well, thank you. At this point, we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll start off on the segment I earlier talked about, where the phone lines will be open and you can get to be part of the discussion in the studio. So stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
Stop the proliferation of illicit small arms and light weapons. It is estimated that there are over 6 million illicit arms in circulation in Nigeria. This has led to the untimely death of innocent citizens. This huge number and overflow of weapons in the country have needlessly contributed to very high levels of violent crimes, banditry, insurgency, terrorism, cultism, and political thuggery, thereby making you insecure. We must work together to rid Nigeria of illicit small arms and light weapons. Stop gun running, stop stockpiling, stop selling your security and well-being for cheap. Report anyone stockpiling or smuggling illicit arms to the nearest security agency. Support the government so we can live in a safe Nigeria. This message is brought to you by the Center for the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons.
The Nigerian aviation sector is rapidly growing with the construction of new international airport terminals in several regions of the country. The new Murtala Mohammed International Airport has an estimated passenger increase of 30 million annually and 15 million for Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. Malam Aminu Kano International Airport is also expected to open new frontiers for the region with more travel capacity for the annual Hajj, while the new Akanu Ibiam International Airport, Enugu, builds more business opportunities connecting the industrial cities in the region to the world. These new terminals beat world-class standards with enabling infrastructure that aid air travel, tourism, and the eventual growth of the country's GDP.
Open up commerce and, of course, link us to international societies.
People from international community will come here to do business, and then that will bring in more revenue to the states.
Now, distances can be seamlessly covered as Nigeria keeps raising its bar to suit global infrastructure standards.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. We start off now with another in our reports on delegates and party politics. This one is from Oka.
Build up to the 2023 general elections have reached the important stage where the flag bearer for most elective positions emerge from various political parties. This entails screening of members who have signified interest for such positions and have bought relevant forms for such position. This process gets to its crescendo when those aspirants appear before the party members during special congresses for the purpose of electing who among the numerous aspirants cleared by the political party deserves to represent them. At the party congress, delegates are pivotal to the process.
If the party decides to adopt the indirect system of election, that is what the delegate system will now come in. So the main function, the main duty, the main power of a delegate for the purposes of party politics is to participate in the selection.
We have statutory delegates who happen to have been maybe governors and representatives of the party, or even chairmen, ward chairmen. There are also super delegates like BOT members, people that have been in the party for a long time, have established responsibility with the party.
Since the introduction of delegates into Nigerian political process, the system has achieved mixed reactions. While some believe it has brought a level of internal democracy in political parties, others feel otherwise.
The source of the power of delegates is as stated in the Electoral Act. Advice to these delegates is just to put the interest of the country first before their different opinions. Because if the delegates are elected and not selected, fully elected, when they get to the convention ground and you, the leaders, decide that you have a concession, they can say no and say vote. Because remember that in all the elections I've witnessed at the convention ground, even when there's a consensus, there's still an election conducted.
As delegates participate in the various political party primaries and congresses, to elect persons who eventually represent them at the 2023 general elections. The onus lies on them to elect those with credible credentials because the future of the country depends on their leaders. In Oka, Daniel Okbai.
All right, we have come to that part where the phone lines will be open and you can join the discussion in the studio. And we say this every Tuesday. If you do call in and your call gets through to the studio, remember to turn down the volume of your TV set to avoid the hurlback or the echo. As we also encourage you all the time, when you get through, just go straight to the point. Don't waste time on greetings. You don't have that luxury. So, simple hello is enough. Already we have Ada calling in. Ada from Jos, I believe. Okay, right. Ada is our first caller tonight. Go ahead. Hello.
It's unfortunate that majority of the delegates don't represent the parties because they have been trying to rob. Hello?
Yes, go ahead. Now we can hear you.
Okay. They have been trying to rubber stamp and at one point consensus delegates. The whole scenario can be likened to a bazaar, especially in the two dominant parties. There's no level playing ground. They lack internal party democracy, if you ask me. But all the same, it's a systemic problem, which I feel with time will fizzle out after perhaps many more years of democracy. Now, with the electoral process now, the way it is, if they continue the way they are behaving, that's especially the two dominant parties, I bet you they will be shocked what will happen in 2023. There will be a tsunami. And I pray they continue with this blunder of lack of internal party democracy in order to give the other 16 political parties, which are referred to as entrepreneurial parties, to have an opportunity to throw up candidates that can emerge in 2023 and benefit from the protest votes. All I want to advise Nigerians is my fellow compatriots is that let us all go out there and register, participate in the election. Our votes will count. We should not wish away in prayer. You cannot be, if you want to pray, you must have a prayer point. Have PVC, then pray over your PVC that when you vote, your vote should count. You can't be praying without PVC. Faith without what is dead. That's what my own faith tells me. God bless you. Let's all give up on this country.
Thank you very much, Ada from Jos. Okay, so keep the calls coming through, and whatever issues you raise, our guests here would be willing to address them. Let's come to you and find out the role of. A lot of people have spoken against the role of money in politics, but we get to hear that. This has become, the answer is always about having enough funds to cater for the party's activities. It costs a lot to move delegates from one place to the other, and so money is a factor. But is there anyone looking at what is being spent?
Well, in the Electoral Act and of course the INEC guidelines have streamlined to an extent such that parties are supposed to give account of money they receive, to that extent. But of course, that these things are not always usually declared the way they ought to be. But more importantly, there is no doubt that the issue of money, you cannot take it away, from the politics, as it were. So, but what is more important is that the parties themselves ordinarily ought to. Now, let me take it to the people themselves. You see, I want to look at this thing more from the historical point of view. You see, the problem we are facing really in the polity can be traced to the transition from the military to civil rule, in the sense that the people who took over the civil rule are the unitary kind of people who took over from the military, and essentially they are the grab kind of people. Now, I want to say, when the civil rule came, essentially politicians who are credible didn't trust the system, and it scared them away from the polity. Now, giving those military apologists for them to hijack the system. Now, it became very difficult, really, for the proper politicians, the credible ones, to come back into the system. Okay? Now, what has happened is that the political class, as it were right now, are unable to, they're unable to.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, at this point, we might just get back to the phones because, yes. All right. We have a blessing. We'll just ask you to pause a while. We have Blessing who's calling in from Delta. Hello, Blessing. If you're there, go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you very much. My own opinion in Nigeria politics today, the problem of delegate election, money politics has destroyed Nigeria. Because today, you can see that different aspirants are sharing money to delegate, to buy delegates, which is not supposed to be so. Then secondly, you are talking about the younger ones to rule, and they are selling form for 100 million naira, presidential form. How can the younger ones raise 100 million naira for form? Which is not possible and is not normal. We should try and go back to the drawing board and make sure that we help the younger ones to grow, not just the old people. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Well, with regards to that, there's a question here put out. Most people would talk about the presidential race. The question here is, what's happening at that local level for those who are going into the state assembly, those who eventually would think about going for local government positions? Now, why is there so much attention on the presidency? Let's put that to Honorable Mansour Umar Kurugu.
I think why people concentrate more on the presidential election is because that is the apex, and that is where, especially if you look at the two political parties, PDP and APC, are paying more attention to. The issue of State House of Assembly and National Assembly, it's more like the state governors of the ruling party of whichever state it is, they felt like they get everything under control. Like, it's just the person that I agree you should go and buy a form. That person is the one that is going to emerge as the member House of Assembly or House of Representatives, and by extension even the state governor. Unlike the presidential aspect, where different people from different states will have to come and talk to the those governors, and by proxy talk to the delegates, and try to convert some support from that angle. So I think that is why there is more attention on presidential election than the other positions.
you'd find out that even when parties themselves begin to put the processes in place, you find that they don't pay much attention to governance at such levels. And even when people eventually get into office, you find that we are all talking about states, federal level, and nobody's talking about the local level.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is to look at it this way. If today I emerge as, let's say, the member House of Assembly or House of Rep in my constituency, and then I decided to go against my governor, whoever he might be, it simply means I risk losing my ticket next election if I wish to contest again. But for the president, I mean, that is beyond just one single state. He can have a support of one state and then not really a very good support from another state, but that person can scale through. Let me just give you an example now. It's very few states that you will see a real democracy beyond that level of the presidency. Like, if you take it in Kano, you can see some of those elements of democracy. Maybe I think it has to do with the political awareness and the interest that people in the state are having. But even with those pushes, from young people, from other people that have a capacity, just as I've cited example with Shaban and the state government, you really cannot make a huge impact. You have a limit. You can only do certain little things, and then whatever you do, so far it is not in line with what your governor is working on, you risk your position. You risk your position of growing politically. You risk your position of becoming the next governor. But for the presidency, it's entirely different. It's a matter of, I get this state, I get another state. It's just that calculation. Okay, what is my relationship with this governor and the rest of that? And that is why the attention is more on the presidency than the politics of each state, in my own point of view.
Prince, even among the small parties, it's always the presidency.
Yes.
Why is that so?
Okay, the presidency, number one, is common. So if you have issues with, there are over 10,000 members of houses of assembly. So if you are raising, it becomes a local issue. If you're talking of a senator, it becomes a local issue. So the presidency is common. So if there's a threat to it or a problem, it's common to all of us. So that's number one. Number two, the executive powers in the federation is vested in one man. So the president is about 40% of all the powers in the country. So whoever goes to that office, it's very important. So whoever says it's important, is the commander-in-chief, is our head of state, is the person who's our father or mother, and we have in common. So that's why it is. But one thing I want us to understand is that we should not glorify misbehavior. Democracy offers options, and the way we are acting as if we are helpless does not represent the reality. Nigerian people can reject a political party. They did it in 2015. So they can reject a political party with all the shenanigans and all these dollars and all these big men. They will just, the voter who has a voter's card is superior to a super delegate, is superior to a governor. So, and then we now have 18 political parties. We have a long period for campaign. We cannot campaign now. We cannot make too much differential. We will talk in general terms. But as time goes on, people will realize that the political parties are different. The people entering them are different. And it is not every smaller party that is welcoming a big gun with a lot of money. Okay. We don't do that. Especially in the SDP, and I know a few parties that they keep knocking our door, we don't open the door. Okay. We want to be able to win the power for the people, because the essence of having another political party is not to have a third or fourth person misbehaving. It's to give people an alternative and say, okay, if you are grunting, crying over the behavior or misbehavior of this party, what of this option? So you don't say I'm without choice, because in many instances you ask voters, why don't you come out? They say, well, between APC and PDP, they look the same to me. Now you have an option. You have several options, and that is the idea of a representative democracy. So we should not despair. The delegates of this big party may misbehave, They may not vote according to their conscience, but there are other parties. So
we'll return to that.
Look at that.
Okay, we'll return to that, but let's get back to the phone. See if Ladan from Abuja is still on the line. Hello, Ladan. If you're there, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here. Good evening, Mr. Steven.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Steven.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, I want to say something regarding the delegate, the election by delegates, you know. The system, rather, that we have adopted has denied Nigerians the opportunity to elect refined leaders. You see, the delegate, as we were seeing, it's a matter of the highest bidder, you know. Most good candidates cannot afford to have, to pay this delegate. Look at what is happening in Kaduna State today. I think you must have seen what Senator Shehu posted, that he is not paying any delegate to vote him, nor is he allowing anybody to sponsor him. He's stating exactly what is happening. Most eventual winners become tools, or rather, are rendered to be at the mercy of their sponsors, denying them the will to do what they want. Even this government, as it is now, you can see how it has been affected by this. How this the present leadership was sponsored by others. But we know that the leader has a genuine will for the masses, but because he was hijacked by sponsors. So I think the system we have adopted is very bad. It's denying Nigerians the opportunity of good leadership. Please, I don't know how we came about this. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much, Ladan. And, well, back to Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu. What would you say to that? Oh, dear. Okay, we'll try to reconnect with Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu. But then let's go over to Sokoto studio and Sambobelu and Chadi. The APC Publicity Secretary of Sokoto State is there. What are your thoughts? What are your views about what last caller Ladan just said?
I didn't follow what he said. Honestly, I didn't make any point of any meaning of what he said. I didn't hear him properly.
The way it is currently constituted is faulty. It's not good enough, and that's just it. That it cannot throw up credible leaders. What do you say about that?
I go back to the points I raised earlier. Honestly, so long as the parties cannot fund themselves, it is very difficult to have credible leaders. The system can hardly produce the credible leaders that we require. But of course, there is some hope. Like we said, in 2015, Nigerians were able to elect leader of their choice in spite of the money bags that were around. So Nigerians can still make it. I still believe that if we improve on the electoral system, Nigerians will always elect the leaders of their choice. And again, another point that we cannot forget is that the baptism of fire that Nigerians went through in terms of the issue of security in this country has also raised the stakes for electoral offices. I believe anybody who has to cast a vote, either as a delegate or as a common voter, must bear in mind that we need a leadership that will salvage the situation that we have in this country today. And I believe Nigerians are up to the task.
All right, let's go back to Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu. We've been able to re-establish those links. But I believe that you listened to last caller, Ladan. He expressed disappointment with the system and says the way it is currently constituted, we cannot bring up credible leaders. So what can be done? How do you clean up this act? Because I've met people who said to me, what's the point? We would be eventually faced with choosing between people that have been thrown up by these parties that we do not think should be in the race. So what can be done? Yeah, could you unmute, if you can hear me, could you unmute your audio?
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, what we can do two things basically. The first is to have a political party that will meet the yearnings and aspirations of the people of this country. For the first time in the history of Nigeria in 2015, Nigerians contributed monies for aspirants that were to govern this country. That has never happened before, but it happened in 2015. That shows that Nigerians are willing to pay the price. So what is happening is we do not have that very particular platform. Most of the political parties are not able to galvanize such Nigerians that you just mentioned that are yearning for alternative. I give an instance. In the 60s and 70s, you have the NEPO, you have the PRP. These are two parties that were anti-establishment, and they have their members that were paying membership subscription. They fund their own activities. As a delegate, you have to pay to go to the convention ground and equally vote. So by that token, nobody can really hijack the party. Even the leadership of the party cannot hijack the party. They cannot tell delegates what to do. In such a situation whereby you left your home, you are expecting somebody to cater for you, from air ticket to taxi to hotel accommodation, and then you say you want to be independent. No, the person is an investor and is going to recoup for you some money. So we've not really seen that very particular political party. What made the APC to make impact in 2015 was because they came with change mantra, and they were able to connect with the yearnings and aspiration of the people, and that was why a lot of persons left most of their political parties to join the APC. So they defected to APC, they joined forces with the APC, and then they defeated the sitting government, despite the monies that were shared in that very particular election. But I am not seeing that kind of a political party that equal either PRP, that equal either NEPO, that equal what the APC did in 2015. I've not seen. The second thing is that most of the people that are complaining that they are not going to vote because nothing will change. We are having two behemoths that are behaving in like manner, and then nothing will change. I want to say to those people that they are not assisting Nigeria, and they are not assisting themselves and then the future generation. These are people that are supposed to form the third force. These are the people that are supposed to give us platforms, like the APC, like the NEPO that I mentioned earlier on. But they are not doing that. They go to sleep, and then we allow people that will not even have business in government and governance to decide our fate, and we're going to lament insecurity. It is not done. So if we want to change, we have to do two things. First is change in attitude. The second one is sacrifice. So that as a party, you are able to fund your activities, you are able to do your things, you are not really waiting for any money back to bring money to fund party activities. And by so doing, then we are good to go. But the problem is the masses in Nigeria have been indoctrinated. They've been taught that nothing goes for free. And that was why my brother in SDP was saying the other time that you cannot remove money from politics. We can remove money from politics when we want to do the right things. If they give you anything, collect, but vote the right persons, irrespective of the party they are standing for. So this is just my own advice. But that because I've taken money, I must do it, then we are not doing the right thing. And that is what stood the people of Bauchi State out in terms of political re-engineering. You go to Bauchi State today, the people tells you we are going to remove this person from office, they will remove the person from the office. If you like.
Okay then, all right. We have another caller on the line, Femi calling in from Delta, I believe.
Good morning.
Yes, go ahead, please.
All right. My take on this issue is that I want to direct it to the man from the civil society. Yes. The point of my view is this. The problem we are having is corruption. If we don't tackle the corruption, there is no way all these things we are discussing on will work out. This is the right time for civil society to stand up and put up a bill on corruption. Let us learn from other countries. You understand? Let us criminalize corruption. You understand? We need to put a bill as they did on the Electoral Act. Let it go to the National Assembly. Criminalize this corruption. Let it be a death sentence for whoever that is found guilty of corruption. And if any president that will be on the power then can use one person as a scapegoat, bet me, even to the last people in the bottom, we see corruption around, and our country will come back to normal. Please, the civil society, this is the right time. We have to stand up. We have to submit this bill to the National Assembly. We have to be truthful to ourselves. Corruption has to have a death sentence. That is how we can solve all these problems. We will come back to normal and Nigeria will be good. God bless Nigeria.
All right. Thank you very much, Femi from Delta. And, you heard the ban. Yes, and what do you make of what's said so far?
Okay, first, let me correct the impression by the political scientists that I said that you can't remove money from politics. That never came from me. What I'm saying is that given what has been said, I said that criminal activities committed in a political setting is still a crime. If you go to a political rally and pick a gun and shoot somebody, that's murder. If you slap somebody, that's assault. So if you go to a political process and you are bribing voters, I can see that in the Electoral Act, that's an offense. So now, character cannot be taken away from politics because politics requires you to make a decision. So a voter, a delegate, is making a choice, and your choice is based on your value and your character. So when a person is miseducated politically and they think that the process does not lead to anything and they don't have the public in mind when they make the decision and they now go and sell the vote, there is nothing you can do other than go for political education, because the law as it is today in Nigeria, if you give it to a political party in America or in Europe, they will use it well because it's a very sound law. What does the law say? The law says that if you're a member of a political party and you want to choose your leaders, the party is free. Not every party has to choose delegates. That's the law. A party can decide to do a direct primary where all their members vote. Now, if every member votes according to their conscience, that's fine. But if members too, even apart from delegates, if members too in direct primaries decide to collect rice, water, money, and still vote wrongly, it's the same result. Let us address the fact that a political party is to shape the character of its members. And that's why I'm saying don't use a broad brush to cover all the political parties. All parties are not the same. Analyze each political party. In my party, from when I joined till now, and I'm a presidential aspirant, I have not encountered corruption. I've encountered people asking you questions. I talk to delegates one by one. I virtually know the faces and names of delegates and all of that. Nobody's taking instruction from any big wig anywhere. And I'm sure there are other political parties like that. What Nigerians should do is search your own conscience. You can control your own vote. If you don't sell your own vote, you can watch a political party misbehave. You can watch them sell their votes. You can watch them bring the worst person as their representative or their candidate. That's not binding on you. Because on the day of election, you take into account all of this behavior and say, let's cast these people out of power. And I believe that rather than say you are waiting for someone to be caught and sent to jail, why don't you vote them out first? If you vote a political party out and they are out of power, first you have removed their misbehavior from affecting your life because they are out of power. And then over time, when they are out of power, they will realize that they need the people. What is happening and why people are taking so much money in primary elections is that they assume that if you win the primaries, you've almost won the general election. So when you discover that if you pay so much money to a few people to give you a dead ticket, the voters are going to reject you, you will think twice. So and I think that it lies in the hand of Nigerian voters. Look at all the political parties. Understand what they are doing. Go outside the noise. Now we have social media, we have other ways. All these things we are saying, you can get them online. Study every candidate for a high office. Study the behavior of political parties. Watch the way they conduct their affairs from the ward level to the local government level, to the state level, to the national level. And then use that to educate yourself and say, the way these people are behaving, the way they are unfair, the amount of money they are selling their form, the way they are distributing money all across, this party needs to be taken away from power. And if you do that, then they become harmless to you. But if you don't come out to vote, or if you are voting, you are not educating yourself about the alternatives available to you, and then that's your choice. In democracy, it's difficult for majority to say they are cheated, except the majority that does not want to use its powers.
All right. Well, let's keep the calls coming through, and yes, more views are coming in as we go on. Now, let's go over to let's return to Kano studio and link up with Mansour Umar Kurugu once again. Given what we are witnessing now, what would you say is the future of representative democracy in Nigeria?
Well, I would like to be positive that no matter what the situation could be, there would be people that would like to see the representative politics, scale and give a better result. But as it stands, looking at all the parameters, in both the political parties where we all got it wrong within the internal politics, I will tell you, I'm not seeing any true representation in the process. I will just give you an example with APC, the issue of these delegates and the rest of that. You says that delegates can be elected and they have a form to buy and the rest of that. So you give an opportunity in one hand, and then you decided to say that all the forms should be sold to the state party, which by default, is controlled by each of the state governors, which means, okay, now citizens, you have a right, you belong to a political party, you have a right to contest to become a delegate and to decide who will become the next member House of Assembly, the next senator, the next president, and the rest of that. But at the end of the day, ordinary citizens do not have the right to walk through and get the forms and campaign within their own words to get the support of the people to emerge as the delegate, which means it's more like you give 10 naira from left hand and then you take it to in the right hand. So if we continue to go in this direction, I can see that there is no that true representation. But again, there is always a room for improvement, and I believe the result of the election will make all the major political parties to begin to rethink. Sometimes Mr. Cyril Stover, I even wonder, some political parties, do they really want to win election? Because there are issues that like giving out this particular candidate in this political party in one state, it's a dead ticket, but yet they go ahead and do it. And then they have their analysts at the national headquarters and all levels, but nobody is talking about it. I can tell you this categorically, like we have seen it in PDP, when there was this conflict, when some of the leaders within the parties were marginalized, and at the end of the day, they left the party, and we are seeing where they are heading to, down. It is the same thing exactly happening in APC in some of the states. Other states are very solid, they are doing well, but in some of the states, especially in northern Nigeria, consider Kano, we are seeing a dramatic, decrease in the support from the citizens, even the political leaders within the parties are moving out. Again, that even takes us back to the issue of ideology. Most of the political leaders that we are having today, they are in the political parties not because of the political party, but because they have a hope that they could pick a ticket and that political party could deliver during the general election. And again, if that is what we will continue to do, we will continue to see this crossover from one political party to another, and I mean, we might not really ended up having a good result from our leaders.
Back to the phone lines. Moazu is calling in from Gombe. Hello. Okay, that call dropped. Well, we lost that call. But again, just keep the calls coming if you can get through, and we would be here to talk about and respond to such issues as you might raise. Dr. Abu Habis, do you see a change in the scenario where people who, well, okay, we need to re-establish contact with him once again, right? Okay, fine. And then let's go over to Sokoto instead and speak with our guest in Sokoto and say, well, do you see the syndrome changing where aggrieved people, especially from what's happening now, decide that the only other way out is to defect to other parties? And there again, it's been shown, more than once that the whole idea is that if I cannot get what I want in here, then I should try and get it somewhere else. And this is not about ideology or any such thing. It's just about people who want to either remain in power or to win power, decide that if it's not working on this platform, then I shift to the other platform. Do you see that changing anytime soon?
To my opinion, the problem that we are facing, it is the issue of the power that the governors wield. And until we are able to whittle down the power of the governors over the political system in this country, I think we will continue to have problems. Perhaps we could find a way, I don't know how, but there should be a way that perhaps governors at the end of their second tenure could be prevented from succeeding to the Senate at the end of that tenure. Perhaps there should be a break if one could stay for a tenure before he can now vie for the seat of the Senate. Until we are able to fashion a way out of this problem, I think we still have a long way to go.
Would you subscribe to that?
No, anything undemocratic, anything restricting people's choice, because the governor may be a good governor and his people may want him to go to any other level. I think what we need to understand is that in politics, character matters. It's not only the character of the president or governor, the character of the voter. Many of the people who say that in their party the governors are oppressing them is because they are going to the governors for money. The governor has only one vote. If you stand down and stand up and say, this is where I want to be. I think that, number one, many of the political parties have been organized wrongly, just to grab power, not to serve the people. So, many of the political parties are not popular because of the way they are managing power already. So, now, what I want to recommend to Nigerians is you have 18 political parties. If a party is not being fair, vote with your feet and go to another party. When you get to that other party, learn the process. Learn how to behave. Learn how to comply with the rules, because the political parties are more important than universities in training leadership. Why? Because in our constitution, it does not say you have to go to a university to be able to run for office. It says you have to belong to a political party and be sponsored by that political party. I want every Nigerian to start having stake in political parties, to start respecting them. Let me tell you something that is very clear. There are 18 political parties and there are 36 signatories. Anybody who will be president of Nigeria must be signed by 2 of those signatories. Nobody outside them can make you president. So if political parties wield so much power and nobody from councillor to president can enter political office without the political parties, then we need to be serious about what happens in the political parties. Some of the political parties, with due respect, from what their members are telling us when they are coming out of the party, is like a den of crimes. Because when you pay money outside the book in order to get elected as a delegate, you pay money to a delegate in order for a delegate to vote for you, you pay money to become chairman of a party, some governors share dollars to remove executives. All these things are very important, and we should punish a political party that misbehaves. I think that these political parties will be surprised, like the caller said, by next year, the political party that will come to power will be a political party that has not been in power before because of these excessive abuses that are going on. And Nigerians now should start evaluating those being thrown up by SDP and other political parties and start looking at them and see whether they potentially can become good people or another bad example. So because there's a limit to which you can be changing parties without changing the fortune of the country. So I think we should use our power to create alternative. You have nothing to lose. If you don't like a political party, you don't like a particular set of leaders, and you vote them out, you lose. That is what you're supposed to do. What you're not supposed to do is to be lamenting every year, every 4 years, and you keep returning the same people, or you don't show up. That lamentation is not helpful. You have options. It's not a military rule. It's not a foreign government. It's your vote. And nobody is being denied the right to vote. INEC shouts every day, come and register. So when you register, also educate yourself. Also make sure that you know that this power is what these people who are in government today, you can blame them anyhow you want, but they didn't jump into the power from the skies. You elected them. So what you need to do now is to say, I made the wrong choice. I hired the wrong guys. So this time I'm going to learn, and I'm not going to care about all the balloons that are thrown in the air, the aircraft they are flying all over the place, their dominance in the paid media. I'm going to start doing my research. When somebody comes up and says, I want to be president, don't say, who's that? Go and do research about the person, study the person, ask questions, and then start to educate yourself. If you do that, you won't have any of these problems. In these other countries where their governments are good, it's the fear of the voters that made the government to be good. Because they know that if you misbehave, then the voters will vote you out. And once you're out of power, then what's the use? So I want us to learn to vote bad governments out and vote new people in. That's the way forward.
Let's return to Dr. Abu Hamisu, hoping that we've been able to yes, there you are. I can see you now. The other time I was going to come to you to comment on what our caller said, and it's gone to where we're looking. Can there really be a change?
Yeah, I think let me borrow from the APC government, the slogan that change begins with me. The bad behavior we're talking about is not coming from people from Ghana or from Zambia or from anywhere in the world. Is the attitude of Nigerians. We should stop looking for Maggi on the day of election or Indomie or whatever. We should vote for people that can give our children education, that can give us healthcare delivery, that can give us roads, that can give us power. Because with power, the level of poverty will reduce. What is killing businesses in Nigeria today is a lack of power. So we should work for issues. So my brother for SDP was making a point a while ago when I was joining, and he said in those developed countries, they vote for issues. Yeah, they vote for issues because it's either they vote for issues or they perish. It's because they're not voting for issues, and that is where insecurity refuses to go. That is where poverty refuses to go. That is where unemployment refuses to go. So if somebody is telling you that he's going to give you a running tap that will be giving us milk every day, you should know the person is a liar, reject the person. If the person gives you money, reject the person, because those kind of people are investors and they are going to recoup their money. Vote for credible people that will work for public interest, people that will secure us, secure our homes, and give us all the basic needs that we need. So by the time we vote for those people, we don't ask them for money. They will come back to us to say these are the things we need to deliver, and we're going to deliver. So if we take money from them, we don't even have the effrontery to confront them, because we're as guilty as they that offer the money. You remember in Nigeria, bribe offense is committed by the giver as well as the taker, and that is why everybody used to maintain silence when the transaction usually takes place. But if you vote people and you don't take anything from them, you can confront them any day, anytime. And this is why I respect the people that usually change their representatives across the country, irrespective of party.
All right, we prepare to wind down this program now, and so let me go over to Kano studio, and Honorable Mansour Umar Kurugu, political strategist. We're winding down now. Let's hear your closing comments.
Well, my closing comment will be like election is approaching, and we have another chance to choose the right candidates at all levels. Unfortunately, at the level of delegates, we really have a little thing that we can influence. You can only talk to the people to think about their behaviors and the result of their actions, but literally you cannot really penetrate much into that. And then again, when it is time for the election, let's go for the credible candidates. And of course, for the APC, like I'm really trying to bring their attention to the real problem they are having in a number of states. Like I said before, I just felt like the national leadership of APC doesn't really care whether they are going to fail in Kano, because definitely they are going to fail with the way they are going, except if they do something and change the candidate they are presenting, which Kano people are angry with them. So that is for APC, but again, for the other political parties, I mean, they need to do better in terms of this, having a clear way of selecting the delegates, giving a platform for every party member who wishes to be a delegate to be able to contest, and eventually they will be able to select some leaders that could really have people in their heart. And then again, by doing so, we are bringing power back to the citizens. Even when you think you can take a lot of money and give back to the delegates, and at the end of the day they will go ahead and do the right thing, one day nobody will bother to carry his money and give, or have money to give to either delegates or to the voters. So I think the idea of talking about this whole giving out money and the rest of that could best be solved when people will be able to even receive the money and then do the right thing. And one of the caller was mentioning like the development practitioners need to do a lot in sensitization, creating awareness to the people, understanding that nobody is even going to see you like when you're going to vote. So whatever you take, vote for the right person. And again, at this level, I'm calling on these delegates, despite the fact that the process that brought them on board is something that we might not really understand it, but they should know they have a responsibility on them, to make sure that they use their brain, their senses, and bring the people they believe at all levels will give the kind of leadership Nigeria deserves, especially at this material time. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Sirsowa.
Now, Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu, we're winding down now in just about a minute. What are your closing thoughts?
We can't afford to deceive ourselves going further. We have a lot of issues. We need people with vision. We need people with capacity. We need people that are disciplined. So we don't need people with money, because if money is our problem, we won't have any problems in Nigeria. So I am saying that party is not our problem. Laws are not our problems. The problem is our attitude. And we can see the kind of change we want to see when we change and we embrace change and we do the right things from the delegate to the voters. So my call is for us to work together to survey Nigeria by doing the right things without really projecting our interests over the interests of 200 million Nigerians. Thank you.
Well, I would like to thank you very much, Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu, political scientist and researcher. Join us via Zoom. Thank you for being part of this program. Thank you.
It's my pleasure, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Well, back here with Prince Adewale Adebayo, a lawyer and STV presidential aspirant. Your closing comments here.
My closing comment is that Nigerians should know that our problems, as enormous as they are simple to solve. Don't lose hope. Nigerian problems can be solved by us. And Nigerian people have not been as powerful as this since our history. This is the most powerful generation, because you can vote people out of power and you can vote in people who will help you. Don't despair. Just remove the problems by your vote and don't lose hope in the country. Nigeria has a great potential and be destined by God to be a great country. All you need to do is have faith in Nigeria, have faith in the right choice, cast away all the bribery, cast away all the inducement, vote for the future. It's in your hand. There's nothing to worry about.
Well, and it is on this note, we've run out of time. We have to say thank you very much and goodbye to all our guests. We'd like to say thank you to Sambo Bello Anchadi, APC Publicity Secretary in Sokoto State, who joined us from our Sokoto studio. We thank you for being part of this discussion. Our thanks also to Honorable Mansour Umar Kurugu, political strategist. He joined us from our Kanu Network studio. We thank you very much for being part of this discussion. And also, thanks to OBDK Okolo, lawyer and Deputy National Secretary of National Rescue Movement and National Treasurer Interparty Advisory Council, who was with us here earlier in the program but had to attend to other matters midway. And also, thank you too for being part of this program. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Continue to stay safe.